Hello guys, welcome back to the Try Time podcast. I'm Callum and this is episode 29. So as you can tell, similar to last week, it is just me starting off here, but Matt is going to chime in later on. So I'm going to run through the results from the weekend, the fantasy, that sort of thing like we usually do. And then I'm going to give my predictions for the weekend's games, and then Matt's going to chime in at the end and give his. Essentially, we just haven't been able to, since obviously the weekend when the results and everything have come in, to be able to get together remotely at the same time. We've just both been busy, but from next week we should be back in the studio, which will be good, as we'll be there. If you're watching it on YouTube, you'll be able to, instead of just sort of seeing like sort of graphics of what we're kind of talking about, you'll be able to actually see us sat there next to each other, COVID secure and everything, of course, talking to each other and discussing things, which always is, it's always better content and that sort of thing. And also the quality generally, you'll be able to tell through the audio as well if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully you won't have to deal with this for too much longer and we're back in person and happy days. So first of all, we're going to just go over the championship results from the weekend. We'll start off with championship as we did last week, which, you know, it's championship I'm really enjoying at the minute. I think it's getting a lot of, you know, sort of being shared around. You know, obviously games are on our league, but I am seeing a lot of discussions around it online. You know, you go Twitter, Facebook, that sort of thing. It is getting a lot of traction on there, and I think it is because the product and the games are just so damn good, to be honest. And I mean, we'll start off with two games on Saturday. So London have got a big win, really, I think, because, you know, they've struggled a bit of London, and they've shown that, you know, with the injuries and stuff like that they've got, that, you know, maybe they don't have the depth anymore. They're breeding through some of the youngsters, which is what you love to see, really. But they've gone and beat Oldham 38 points to 24. It's a big win for London, like we've said. Oldham, they've put up a good fight in this one. Obviously, a lot of people have them to go down, but I do think if, you know, against maybe a lesser team than London, maybe they'd have pulled off a win here. They're definitely not, you know, they haven't been dominated in this game completely. It's not like a big trouncing or anything. London will take some confidence for this. I'm fairly certain Jared Sammut will back, which is big for them. Arguably one of the best players in the championship this season, so it's going to be interesting to see him play more. Now, moving on to the second game on Saturday, Batley versus Widnes. Now, this was an interesting one because you've got the former Batley, who, you know, lost round one against Featherstone, but it is Featherstone, and then, you know, they've bounced back well, and, you know, they are looking like a solid team, and Widnes have struggled, you know, only the one sort of draw on the board, really, against Newcastle round one, and they've lost to Widnes here, 48 points to 16, over at Batley. Batley have absolutely dominated them. You've got to give credit to Batley on this one. Unreal. They've signed really well in off-season. Honestly, if any one of these sort of teams is going to push for playoffs like you wouldn't expect, I do think Batley are one of the teams you've got to kind of throw up there, just because I think they're always an hard team to beat anyway, but they've also signed that extra bit of sort of quality, you know, that extra bit of, you know, razzle-dazzle, you know, quality, a bit of sort of, rather than just your sort of straight up drives and an half decent kicking game, they've kind of got halves now who can kind of play with ball a bit, which I think is always good, especially in championship when you've got some of them slower forwards as well, you can catch them out. So yeah, big for Batley. In terms of Widnes, where do they go from here? I mean, obviously they threw away that lead against Newcastle, not great, then they've lost games, and they're losing to these teams like, you know, Batley, Dewsbury, that they've lost to now, and you think Widnes need to start picking up some wins from somewhere, because if they're thinking playoffs, they're going to have to beat some teams that where they probably are the underdogs. Maybe that's where they'll be. Well, maybe they'll be one of these teams that, you know, they beat the good teams, but they lose to the, you know, teams you expect to be lower down than them. But we don't know. If I'm a Widnes fan, I wouldn't be panicking just yet, but also I'd be thinking, you know, we do need to get something sorted here, get a bit of momentum, a bit of confidence. As certain teams, you know, maybe didn't start off great and have bounced back, but Widnes do seem to be in a bit of a rut at the minute, and it, you know, things never there's never an easy game in the championship. And I mean, if I'm a Widnes fan, you might have thought, oh well, we've got Dewsbury or we've got Batley, maybe we should be able to pick up a win here, and you haven't done. Like, where do you look to next? You know what I mean? That's the trouble. And then you got Swinton next week, and that's no easy feat either, so we'll have to wait and see, but fair play to Batley. So on to Sunday's games. So York, we said they needed to bounce back. They've beat Swinton away from home 64-16. It's what they needed. It's what I kind of called last week as well. I thought they would come out like this. They'll be upset and disappointed with how they've performed maybe the last couple of weeks or how they haven't got a result. And this is exactly what they needed. They needed a big win, get some points on board, get a bit of confidence going, throw the ball about a bit, that sort of thing. All the things that you think of when you think of York in the Championship, just a quality team who play good rugby, and they've shown that today. Swinton, be disappointed as well. Swinton are the only team that have lost all of their 3 games. There's some draws thrown in there like with Widnes and Newcastle and that sort of thing, as well as obviously Newcastle have won as well, as we'll come to later on. But Swinton are the only team with like the 0% record, and it's not looking good. Swinton's a team that me and Matt and pretty much everyone wanted them to go down. No one expected them to be down there that much, really, because they have shown over the last few years that they are that good at just producing these good Championship players and just kind of just playing well, and they've signed well as well. Players like Martin Ridgard, and I do think they've had it tough. The fixtures haven't been too kind to them, and they've been unlucky in some games as well. It's not like they're playing terrible rugby. This is one of them where York just had the momentum. So we'll have to wait and see for Swinton, really. But like we said before, they've got Widnes away, 2 teams who desperately need a win. So that's going to be a cracker next week. Got Featherstone versus Whitehaven, where Featherstone beat them 48 points to 14. Again, it's one of them with Featherstone where you just expect it to happen when they're playing these sort of teams where you expect them to win. You just expect them to put 30-40 points on them, and they just do it every week, to be honest. It's one of them where, as a Featherstone fan, you must absolutely love watching these Our League streams, just because the tries, dominating games. You have a tendency to concede, the odd 14 points like they have done here, but they're that good going forward. It doesn't really matter. Whitehaven, again, you're playing Featherstone. What can you really expect, to be honest? And I don't think they'll take much sort of disappointment away from that one, because it is expected, and dust themselves off, go again. Hopefully they can fight and stay up. All the best to them. Next up, another cracker, 44 points to 34. Toulouse beat Halifax away from home. Toulouse started this game off absolutely on fire, got up a big score. Halifax managed to fight back, not quite enough. Toulouse ran away and ended up getting the win. 44 points to 34. As I've said, again, Toulouse, as with Featherstone, showing their dominance, showing how good they are, showing that they want that Super League spot next year. Halifax, unlucky. At the end of the day, if you're posting 34 points on Toulouse, you've had a good day going forward. Maybe the defence needs sorting out, as it wasn't the best against Bradford last week either, and maybe that's an area where Halifax are getting found out at the minute. I'm sure they'll work on it. They've got a good team there, solid squad, and I'd back them to still maybe push them playoff spots. So if you're an Halifax fan, I'm not worrying. If you're a Toulouse fan, you're thinking, are we going unbeaten this season at the end of the day? But honestly, quality, they're lovely to watch at Toulouse, as are Fev, really. Halifax will dust themselves off and go again next week. So Newcastle against Sheffield, another interesting one. Newcastle beating Sheffield 24-16, slowing down the sort of run that Sheffield have been going on, where they've been picking up some good scallops, playing really good rugby, and Newcastle have come in and just it's been an absolute crack of a game. This obviously the late try from Akumatai sealing the deal, and I think this is really something Newcastle needed, just to sort of give them a bit of a spark up. And we talked about teams like Widnes and Swinton maybe needing that. Newcastle are in that sort of group with them, and they've got that here, and it's really going to be important, I think, in how their season goes. It's a big win again. Obviously, we're saying Sheffield have been playing well. You'd be wrong to say now that Sheffield can't push the top 6, because they definitely can. They've already picked up 2 big club scalps, and fallen short against Newcastle, but they'll keep going. These are the sort of games where in the Championship you just can't call it week in, week out. Do you go with form? Do you go with a team that's maybe got the extra bit of quality? It all depends on the day, because both teams have given their all here, and it's come out in Newcastle's favour. So now we'll go to the last game of the week. Bradford versus Dewsbury. 35 points to 14 to Bradford. Bradford looked really good in that first half going forward. Some unreal tries. really, like, as a Bradford fan myself, it was really refreshing to see us play like that, because it's not something you'd sort of put with, you know, John Keir's style of rugby, John Keir's coaching. But he's given, to be fair to him, absolutely amazing how he's given him the license to play, you know, Brough and Lily in the halves. It's working really well. Dewsbury, honestly, Dewsbury did not, I would not say I have too bad of a game, you know, some errors and that sort of thing, but I think it was a case of, in the second half, they threw everything at Bradford really well, and Dewsbury dominated a lot of the territory game. If it was purely territory game, Dewsbury were making much more yards than Bradford, but I think the kicking game potentially let Dewsbury down, who knows, but Bradford showed some good defence in the second half. Dewsbury threw a lot at them, and Bradford ultimately did well to manage the game. Having been, you know, 28-6 at half time, you know, it could have gone the other way and it could have ran up to, you know, 40s, 50s, but it didn't. But that is a credit to Dewsbury and how they fought back into the game, but also Bradford's resilience. So in terms of that, both teams are on the same points now. Dewsbury are still looking good enough that they should easily stay up. Maybe if they can get on a run, push that top six. Bradford need to build on this now. A couple of fixtures in the next couple of weeks that we need to be winning, and hopefully then we can sort of start getting ourselves. So it's not a case of, you know, we need these many wins to catch up with the top six sort of places. No, we were already in the top six places. We need to keep winning to stay in there. That's what we need, and hopefully as a Bradford fan, we can sort that out. So, as I've said, great week of Championship rugby. Can't wait for next week either. Going to be another cracker, it always is in the Championship. But now we'll go over to Super League, the quote-unquote elite competition in England. So, Thursday, we'll start off with St Helens 18-10 win over Huddersfield. It's, you know, St Helens, we say it every week, how dominant are St Helens? And, it, you know, it's one of them where you just look at it and you just think, like, obviously teams are going to beat St Helens this year. They're not going to go unbeaten, I don't think. But when the chips are down in the playoffs, I don't see anyone beating them. It's one of them. The team is so good and it's so well drilled, well coached. The players are so professional. They've had a core together for so long now, and it's working. And again, you know, Huddersfield haven't disgraced themselves either in this game, and Huddersfield are, you know, you can see that Ian Watson sort of style and, you know, resilience coming through now. But, you know, Huddersfield won't be disheartened. Like I say, they're still alright, and I think they'll still be fine this season. St Helens look like they're running away with the league potentially as well, although there's a few teams that are up there with them. Two of them teams are actually the next up game, which is Wigan versus Castleford. Interesting matchup. There's two teams that are on a lot of form. Wigan realistically have a few sort of knocks still. Some young guys have been slotting in as well, but Bevan French back and obviously made the difference. 22 points to 12 against Castleford. Again, it's one of them where I can't see a playoffs this year where these two teams are in it. Same with St Helens. I think, you know, they're up there with sort of the locks in it. You could probably call the top six now realistically. I know it's only a few games in, but, you know, you're starting to see which teams are really serious this season. There'll probably be a shock or two in there, as there always is. But, yeah, Wigan will be absolutely buzzing with this. Hardaker is on the form of his life. And, honestly, you know, Wigan maybe are that second spot again. Then St Helens, me and Matt both actually had Wigan to top the league, thinking that St Helens would maybe slow it down a bit through the season and save themselves up playoffs. Not the case at the minute, but, you know, you just can't wait for them sort of Wigan Saints game, or they're just going to be unreal. But yeah, good win from Wigan. So on to Friday's games. So Hull KR against Leeds. Hull KR 26, Leeds 6, and this is an interesting one. Hull KR needed this win just to keep a bit of momentum going as well. Sort of playing Leeds when they have got the injuries, when they have got some of the youngsters in. Maybe it is a good thing. Obviously, they had like Ash Hanley back and that sort of thing, but Ryan Hall dominated again against his former club, and you know, it is tough on Leeds, and I know Matt would probably say the same, and everyone would say that he's just being biased because he's a Leeds fan, but I do see it because, you know, early on in the season, when you look at the squads when everyone's fit, Leeds are realistically a top six sort of team at the minute. But with these injuries, and, you know, it's no fault of these young lads. They've been thrown in at the deep end essentially, and, you know, having majority of your backs out, it's not good. It's not ideal at all, and ultimately it could leave Leeds a bit too big of a sort of slope to climb, which, you know, it's not great, but they, you know, Leeds love that underdog story of coming, you know, 5th or 6th, squeezing in and then winning it all. So, you know, they won't be too disheartened by this. Hull KR, this is a huge step in them surviving, and I do think they will do that this season. I think they have actually got a much better squad, and you know, they're playing good rugby, so fair play to KR. Next, we've got sort of what everyone sort of had down as like the relegation battle between Salford and Leigh. Honestly, I thought Leigh potentially could cause a bit of a shock against Salford. It didn't happen. 34-8. Salford really started showing, you know, we're not in this relegation fight. We're better than Leigh. We you know, we're going to beat them like they have. And Leigh have, you know, Leigh, it's an interesting one, Leigh, 'cause more than anything, I want Leigh to stay up. I just want one of these championship teams who's gone up to actually just survive that one season. I just really want it to happen. But I don't know if it is going to be Leigh now, and I think they needed that win round 1 against Wigan, and it's all going to come back to them not finishing that game off and, you know, getting the win from that, because that would have changed the season completely. Now they look like they're in a relegation battle sort of with Wakefield. You know, Wakefield are one of them teams where they always seem to be down there, but they always seem to just pick up a couple of wins, go on a bit of a run. They've got arguably maybe the better squad than Leigh. It's going to come down to them sort of games between them two, and if any teams can pick up any shot wins. But, you know, Leigh, if you're a Leigh fan, you know, you've got to be happy that you're in Super League. You just got to keep working hard and stuff, and you'll pick up some wins. Let's be honest, you're not going to be on 0 points come end of the season. This will be getting clipped though, no doubt, if that does happen. Hull against Wakey. So again, like we've said with Wakefield, they have lost here, 20 points to 14. They made it hard for Hull. Hull, you know, they are looking really good at Hull, but they also are looking like they are missing Reynolds at the minute. They've obviously a couple of injuries here and there, as most teams do have. They're not maybe the finished article just yet, but there's promising signs there. They've finished Wakey off, and it is about winning when you're not playing at your best or when you're up against it. That, you know, it is one of the most important things in a top team that can not only get to the playoffs but go on to win the playoffs. And, you know, I'm not saying by any means that Hull are going to win the playoffs, but they are one of them teams that right now it's looking like, you know, they are shoo-ins for the playoffs. But it is going to come down to sort of who can pick up some wins here and there, and if Hull can keep this run going. In terms of Wakey, like we say, they are in trouble. If you're a Wakey fan, you probably are worried more so than you have been in, you know, a couple of years. Maybe the year that London went down, Wakey were dragged down there with them. And you know, it's a funny one with Wakey because it kind of just feels like the club's just sat there waiting to go down. Every season they seem to be down in that relegation battle. I imagine, you know, it's not good for hearts of some of them Wakey fans who have to deal with it every season. But yeah, you know, they can be confident they can stay. It's going to be them all, Leigh, I think, and it's going to come down towards the end of the season, in my opinion. So we'll move on to the actual weekend's games now. So, Saturday, finishing off the round of games, Warrington versus Catalan. Again, a big blockbuster clash this. Two teams on good form, and Warrington have got the win, 24 points to 8 away at Catalans. Again, you know, Warrington look really good here. Catalans, you know, not so much, but Catalans have also been on a decent run. Some good wins. They're still up there, and again, these two are sort of the other teams that you'd throw in like sort of a top 6 right now. I mean, if you're speaking top 6 right now, you're speaking St Helens, Wigan, Castleford, Hull, Catalans and Warrington. If you meet, that's personally, they're the ones that come to mind when I'm thinking top 6 at the minute. And I don't think Catalans are now going to not make that because they've lost to Warrington. Warrington are a top team, and they've got the talent. You know, they've got the Widdups, they've got the Austins, you know, that sort of thing. They've got them sort of players. You know, it's not like Catalans don't have game winners. You know, they have Tompkins, Maloney, etc. But it's one of them where it's always going to be, when these two teams play, especially with the lineups they've got, it's going to be a big clash, and there's, you know, it's going to be a tough fight, and it will for Catalans in this game, and Warrington have got that ability to just switch on and play some absolute beautiful rugby, throwing ball around as they do, and they're a solid team to watch at Warrington when they're on top form. So, you know, fair play to them. Right, so like I said, that is the end of the results for this weekend, both Championship and Super League. Some great games across both, and now we'll move on to what everyone's here for, the Fantasy League. Obviously, everyone loves it. So first off, I'll just go over the person who's got the best score this week. Although bear in mind, this definitely will change because I've looked at the scores on my team. It just doesn't seem right. Some players on really low, and they just don't seem to be able to get this Fantasy Super League right. But we'll go off what it is at the minute. So Phil Green's Bash Street second teams ended up on 763 points this week, which is the top for this week. So fair play to you, mate. Rhinos fan, so maybe not fair play, but you're not, only a joke. And overall winner, Ben Webster is still up there at the top, with John Bickerdike just behind him. So that's, you know, that it is crazy as this Fantasy Super League, because it's like these sort of teams up at the top are getting high 600, 700 points every single week, and I don't know, I'm going to catch up with them. I can't lie to you. I'm sat down in 16th again, as I'm pretty sure I was last week, and I just seem to just be in a bit of a stalemate at the minute. I don't know what they've done special. They've obviously, time travelers or whatever, but they are looking good. It looks like it's going to be a battle between Ben Webster and John Bickerdike, Hull KR versus Hull FC, funnily enough, at the top of the league. But yeah, fair play to you lads, and I hope you're watching and everything like that. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, I'm still beating Matt, which is all that really matters to me, to be honest. Just beat Matt and I'll be happy. And I guarantee next week when we're in studio and we'll be going through fantasy, and I'll say, oh, I'm ready, but I haven't made my transfers, I'm not changing my team, I've given up on it, I forgot about it and all this lot. But everyone get on his back and get him playing again, because he'll just be making them excuses all season long. Right, so that's it with results. Fantasy's done. Now we'll move on to my predictions for the weekend's games. So we'll start off with Super League, where there is 6 games. So we'll start off with Wigan versus Hull. So interesting one. Wigan, Hull, both teams who are playing really good rugby at the minute. I am going to go with Wigan purely because I do know Hull. I just think Wigan have got the more momentum than Hull have, and I think the way Hardaker's playing, he's on Man of Steel form, French is back, etc. The whole contingent, Bateman's really getting settled back in at Wigan, playing well. They are showing up to be a really sort of top team, and I do think it'll be a close battle, as Wigan Hull always sort of tends to be, but I do think Wigan will win it. Next up, Lee versus Saints. I'm going to have to back Saints here, really. I think it'd be a massive upset if Lee could do something here. I think they'll put up a battle. They'll beat the game in parts, but I do think Saints, as they have shown this season, they haven't necessarily blown every team away. They've just got the job done, and that's what Saints do. So, yep, I'm backing Saints. Next up, Wakefield versus Catalans. Wakey maybe could do with this win, but I am going to go Catalans. I think Catalans are going to bounce back, and I think it's going to be a typical Wakey. They're in the game in parts, they just can't get a win. They just can't put together an 80-minute performance to get a win, can't Wakey. I do think it'll be a similar situation against Catalans. Salford versus Castleford. Can Salford keep this bit of momentum going? Maybe they need it just to get themselves out of that relegation conversation, but I do think Cass are going to want to bounce back after that defeat to Wigan, and I do think they're going to get the job done. I think they are sort of a top quality team, classic Cass, great team, and the likes of Truman, etc. I do think they can sort of get a win against Salford. An upset could be on the cards, you never know with this Salford team. They've got some good players as well, but I'm going to go with Castleford. Warrington versus Hull KR. I think the sort of rugby Warrington are playing at the minute, I do think they're nearly unbeatable at this point. I think the quality, they're one of the best teams in the league to actually watch, the way they throw the ball about and stuff. So I do think they'll beat KR. I think KR will put a good effort in, as they always seem to do in these games. They'll put a fight, they'll compete in the middle, but I do think they'll just come up a bit short. Next we've got Huddersfield versus Leeds. Again, I'm going to go with Huddersfield, just because I think Huddersfield are starting to get that Watson identity. They're starting to get a bit of rhythm going, a bit of familiarity going with the players playing with each other. And I do think Leeds are still sort of struggling with the injuries and that sort of side of it. And maybe Leeds can get a win here, but I do think Huddersfield will be up for this. They'll really want to win this. They'll see this as an opportunity to get some more points on board. So we're going from 6 Super League games to 6 Championship games. So first of all, I'll just say Featherstone versus Toulouse is not being played this week. It's an interesting discussion, which I guess we can have I'll give you a little explanation. So essentially, the game's being postponed due to sort of the quarantine rules and that sort of thing. Obviously, you have to quarantine for 5 days afterwards when you've been to France and come back. So a couple of weeks ago, you remember London refused to go because of this, and they got given the 24-0 defeat. That is because they are full-time. So Featherstone cannot go because they are part-time or have part-time players. So they will not. The game will be rearranged in the future, which it would have been a cracker, to be fair, the top 2 teams realistically, but it has been postponed, sadly. So obviously we'll get that in the future. And it's a conversation. Is it like, should London have got the defeat? Like, it's not very sort of, people saying humane of the RFL and that sort of thing. Not very moral. But it is what it is at the end of the day. And if you're a London fan, you're probably pissed off. But if you're a Fev fan, realistically, you've had that much thrown at you. You've had Buck thrown at you quite a few times, to be fair, by RFL. And they've seemed to be fairly nice to you on this one. So I'm sure you won't be complaining, although it would have been a cracking game of rugby. So we're going to the 6 games that actually are going ahead. So first up, Oldham versus Halifax. I do think Halifax need a win here. They've a couple of losses on bounce. Need to get back into the rhythm, get a win. I think Oldham, I think these are the sort of games which, maybe they can get an upset, but it could be just sort of the same as last week, just kind of falling a bit short. Sheffield versus London. This is going to be a tasty tie. I'm actually going to back Sheffield on this one. I think they're going to, at home, on that big pitch at Doncaster, they are looking really good. And I do think they'll stretch this London team and just have a bit too much for them. Newcastle versus Batley. This is going to be a tasty tie. I'm actually backing Newcastle just because it is at Newcastle. I think this is one of them games where it depends. The home advantage is there. So you've got Newcastle and their AstroTurf pitch versus Batley, and the hill there and how hard it is to play on there. And I don't think that suits Newcastle's players at all. And vice versa with the Batley going over to Newcastle. So I'm backing Newcastle. Then we've got Whitehaven versus Bradford. Obviously, I've got a stake in this with Bradford. I do think the way Bradford are playing at the minute, I do think we'll get the job done. It's going to be a tough game up there at Whitehaven, but I do see us just getting the job done. I think could be a similar game to Dewsbury, where we kind of maybe go on a bit of a run within sort of a 10-20 minute period, get a few tries, and then kind of just sit back, manage the game, dig in defensively like we did last week. So hopefully as a Bradford fan, we can build on these wins and get a win away at Whitehaven. Next up, we got Widnes versus Swinton. Like I said earlier, this is a big game. Both teams need a win, and you know what? I'm going to back Swinton. I think this is going to be a grueling test. It's going to be one of them that comes down into a couple of points within the game, and I think Swinton are just going to get it done. And I think questions are seriously going to be asked about Widnes after this result. We'll have to wait and see, though. Widnes could absolutely trounce them. Who knows? Then we've got Dewsbury versus York. Again, York wanting to keep momentum, Dewsbury wanting to bounce back from the defeat. I am going to back York. I'm going to back the quality on this one. I think York now are going to go on a bit of a run potentially, pick up some wins. These games that they realistically should be winning if they're wanting top 6, I do think they'll start picking up, and they're sort of experienced players, your Cuthbertsons, etc., are going to sort of start stepping up and sort of marshalling the troops around, getting and just bringing that sort of experience of just winning games of rugby league to the York team. And credit to them, York. They are looking, they've bounced back from some tough times, some tough defeats, and I think they'll get the win against Dewsbury. Right, so guys, that is it from me. 28 minutes in, that's me. All my predictions, everything like that. I will be passing it over to Matt now, but before I do, Matt will probably plug it all as well, but it is what it is. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please sort of subscribe, that sort of thing. Leave a review if you can, it does really help. If you are watching on YouTube, comment, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. We're nearly on 100 subscribers. I know it does seem like a lot, but to us it is. Also, thanks for the sort of feedback, whether it's negative, positive. We have done the sort of championship stadium tier list. Got a bit of feedback, both positive and negative on it. It is just sort of opinionated and that sort of thing, but we do appreciate you guys sort of getting in contact and that sort of thing. And yeah, I will catch you later, and I'll hand you over to Matt now in a bit, guys.
Yeah, you've not managed to get rid of me that easy. I am back on my predictions for the next round of the Super League season. We'll jump straight into Thursday night, Wigan Hull FC. This one, I fancy the Hull side to sit the win here. Wigan probably got a little too much Hull FC to deal with, but definitely a close game and definitely happy for round. Into Friday's matches, Leeds Centurions hosting St Helens. For me, I think Saints are probably a bit too strong on this one. I think they'll come away with the win. Likewise, Kettle are expecting to get the win on their travels to Wakefield Trinity. Meanwhile, slightly tougher game, Salford Castleford. Again, I think it's going to be a hat of away wins on Friday. Castleford probably got a bit too much for Salford, but I do expect that to be a close one. Moving on to Saturday's match, Warrington Hull KI. Kingston have got 2 wins in the last 2 and have a bit of form coming into this one, but I don't think that's going to be quite enough to beat the Wolves, who are probably the slightly stronger team here, and yeah, I think they will come away with the win. And finally, Huddersfield versus Leeds, 2 of the most out of form teams in the division. Leeds have been god awful of late, and Huddersfield, as we know, coached by Ian Watson, the biggest fraud in the Super League. I'm going to back my own team here, even though it's going to be tough, and I think Leeds might just come through. Obviously, Mike was suspended for 2 games for questioning the integrity of an official. What a joke that is, not a single one has any integrity, we all know that already. So let's move on to Championship now. Oldham versus Halifax, I'm going to say that's going to be a win for Halifax. Likewise, I think London will manage to do the job away at Sheffield. On to Sunday's fixtures. Newcastle hosting Batley. I think Thunder might just come away with that one, but will be close. Bradford travelling to Whitehaven. Oh, I hate to say this because Callum's literally not going to shut it down for 5 minutes, but I think Bradford might just win that one. Sorry to you guys that always now got to listen to the Jordan War fan club and full the year. Widnes hosting Swinton. I think Widnes will probably come away with that one, and I think York will beat Dewsbury at the Tetris Stadium. Those are my predictions for Super League and Championship. Let me know which you agree with. Subscribe yet, please do. Turn the red box grey, click the notification bell to never miss any of our videos. And yeah, I will see you next time for either a full pod. Bye.